All right, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. This is the 10th day of December, so we'll go ahead and get started. We're very pleased that Reverend Don Dixon is with us this evening. But first we'll do the roll call since I forgot.
Mayor Curley.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Keene.
Here.
Alderperson Blanks.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
Dunn. Here. Noes.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
7 present.
Oh, we have a quorum, so we'll proceed now. Reverend Dixon, if you don't mind, step to the podium and offer an invocation. So I ask everyone to please stand and remain standing as he leads us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Forgive me if this is a little bit long, but our country buried George H.W. Bush, and at the inauguration, he spoke very briefly, but had this prayer. And I want to build my prayer off it, but let me share with you that prayer and then we'll pray. Heavenly Father, we bow our heads and thank you for your love. Accept our thanks for the peace that yields this day and the shared faith that makes its continuance likely. Make us strong to do your work, willing to heed and hear your will, and write on our hearts these words: use power to help people. For we are given power not to advance our own purposes or to make a great show in the world, nor a name. There's just one just use of power, and it is to serve people. Help us remember, Lord. Amen. Based on that prayer, will you join me for prayer? Eternal God and Creator, the words of President George H.W. Bush, our 41st President, come to mind as we pause to pray. Use power to help people. There's just one just use of power, and it is to serve people. So help us to remember those words and do them, whether we be in positions of influence and leadership in this community or in various other areas of our lives. Help us to remember and do these words. We pray in thy name. Amen. Amen. Join me as we pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Dixon. Appreciate you and the work that you do as a chaplain as well. All right, you see we have someone new has joined us this evening. We're very pleased to welcome Miss Anna Moran. And Miss Moran is a very distinguished young person. She's a senior at Telma High School. She has served as a lifeguard in Parks and Rec Department. I'm sure did an excellent job. She's also a member of the National Honor Societies. She's a member of Mu Alpha Theta. She's been on the basketball team, the volleyball team, the yearbook staff, any number of things. She also, I believe, has a 4.2 GPA. Very impressive young lady. So she's taken dual enrollment. So welcome, Anna. We appreciate you being here tonight. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
My after high school plans, I plan to attend Tennessee Tech, hopefully doing secondary education, but there's so much it's like a land of opportunity out there, so you never know. I could become a farmer. I don't know. But, yeah, I hope to do well in college, and my brother's doing well, so that looks good.
Good. So you've got some family with you tonight. So why don't you introduce your family to us?
You want to stand? These are my parents, Karen and Steve Moran. My dad works at Rogers Group, and my mom works at Ray and Gregory. And they're both cool parents. Yeah. Love them a lot.
Wow. You know, that is so nice. I've been doing this for 17 years, and I don't think I've ever recalled anyone recognizing their parents as being cool and really good parents. I think that was an incredibly nice thing to say. Yeah, very nice. I'd hate to see what my kids say about me. So, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think I've covered most everything.
Good. We're glad you're here and welcome. So we'll be calling on you in just a few minutes. Maybe talk about what's going on at the high school and different things like that if you don't mind. Okay. So if you would stand at your desk there, Anna, and we'll present you a certificate recognizing you as the honorary alderman.
Okay.
So this would be a good time for mom or dad to get a picture if you want one to.
Come over here, put your chair on there, and Mayor, come over here. You have to stay on this side. You can- It really doesn't matter, it's just literally just. All right, take two pictures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah. Okay, I'm not aware of any proclamations or awards or special presentations at this time. Anyone in the audience wish to address the council that's not later on the agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed. We're ready for reports from Board Mayor and Alderman. Mr. Mathis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alderman Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. I've attended several things. The last Chamber Coffee, I think, was in this since our last meeting. Several funerals of friends here in town, and just been a blessing to be a part of. But that event, I'd advertised for the event, the Tennessee State University Annual Alumni Christmas Party for our local chapter, and it did occur yesterday. And that was a great event, and if you missed it, you really missed it. And the president of the actually the Waffle House hero James Shaw was supposed to be our speaker, and I was informing everyone that did get their tickets from me, and we all did. But we did make it known that he had to cancel out at the last minute. He had to be in New York at CNN on yesterday for a some kind of heroes thing they put together. The TV stations did. So he had to be there for that. But in his absence, his mother and father felt it on them to be here, and so they came to the event, and they well represented him. And the president of Tennessee State University, Dr. I'm back to her name right now. I was taking pictures with her yesterday. Anyway, the president of Tennessee State University was our speaker. So it was a great event at the conference center, and I think a good time was had by all. Everything was just excellent. And that's pretty much all I got. So.
Very good. Well, thank you. Dr. Blanks.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Since our last meeting, everybody's been busy. This is a busy season. We had a Christmas parade Friday night. I didn't get to come to the early stuff, but I did catch the tail end of it. We also had a TUA Christmas party Saturday night at the Country Club. That's about the only venue that can host that big a group. But kudos to the people who get the Christmas parade together. It takes a lot of behind the scenes work. I think they do a really good job. We have good sponsors for that, and it's been going on how many years?
60, I think 61 this year.
Long time.
Yeah.
So it's part of my memories is growing up, and it's always a fun time for anybody that gets to go. This time of year can be, like I said, very busy. So, I was coming in on Jackson Street, coming up here tonight, and lots of traffic, a lot of people from all. So they're shopping Tullahoma, and we encourage that. And keep up the good work with all the new businesses we have. So visit them. They appreciate it, and we do too. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Keenan.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended our city's Christmas lunch last Friday down at D.W. Wilson, and kudos to everybody who put that on. It was a wonderful meal, had by all, I'm sure. Morning Point have had a couple of things. I attend that monthly and do call bingo, and then they have their super bingo that they have once a year where they contact businesses to support them and bring little gifts for each of the residents, and that's always a fun time. I also attended the Chamber Coffee at Smart Bank, and we had a tourism meeting. Lots going on with that committee. We weren't able to have everyone there, so we did some audio calls. But next month, we will be meeting again, and I'm sure there'll be some things we'll be able to let everyone know as to what's going on about some welcome signs and various things. So we're really looking forward to that. And also the Veterans Day event. I attended that, and it was a wonderful event. And then I helped with the GFWC Centennial Women's Club. We got to host that.
Yeah, very nice.
That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Steve. Alderman Dunn.
Yeah, we did the Christmas parade on Friday night. So the kids got to ride in the fire truck, and they had such a blast. They had a good time. So it's been a good weekend. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Alderman Ellis. Were you in the fire truck?
I had an opportunity to ride in the fire truck, but due to the weather, I opted to ride with the police. They had enclosed cars.
I was
Better
not
decision.
seeing that opportunity. Congratulations.
Mayor, I have no report tonight, but I do have a comment I'd like to pass along that I heard today. I was at the local orthodontist office, and the receptionist there was telling me that she and her daughter were for some reason, were at the Murfreesboro Public Store, the one out on Manchester Highway, Saturday. They said the store was empty. There was no people there. And they asked, what's going on? Usually in here it's so crowded. They said, well, since they built the store in Tullahoma, we don't get any people coming here anymore. That's my report.
Wow.
Shop Tullahoma.
Shop Tullahoma, 4 Murfreesboro.
Yeah. So I do have permission to say this from the manager, but I've spoken to the manager 4 times of Publix, and he keeps on using the words ecstatic. So he's very pleased, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. So yeah, good report. Ms. Moran, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Other than the fact that I don't go to the high school a lot anymore since I'm dual enrollment, I think our football team did phenomenal throughout the whole season. I couldn't be prouder of all the boys I've grown up with and all that. It's just so cool to see them succeed, But our yearbook stuff is going well. I'm working on the senior spread right now, and it's actually looking really good. And our theme over the whole thing is wherever you go, you always have Tullahoma to come back to, and we talked about that earlier. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I have to say.
Oh, that's nice, yeah. That was very nice, thank you. Yeah, again, I'm glad you're here tonight. Hope you enjoyed the evening. So just 2 things, there's a reminders. The Reindeer Run is this Saturday morning at 8:30, I believe. So any of you interested in a run and walk on Saturday morning, be there at 8:30. The second thing is, a couple of weeks ago, my wife brought to my attention that a young graduate of Tullahoma High School, Grant Rigney, had earned a Rhodes Scholarship, which is remarkable. I've lived in this town for 62 years now, and I've never heard of that before. I tell them a student. I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but not aware of one, at least not in recent memory. So anyway, with your permission, we're hosting a reception for him on the 27th of December. I wanted to do it a couple of other days, but I remember I asked Grant, I called Grant and I said, are you available? At first he declined. You need to know that. He's a very humble person, very humble, and he didn't think it was appropriate to call attention to himself. And I said, well, I understand that and I respect that, but I think it would be good for the community, it'd be good for other young people to hear and meet you and that kind of thing. So finally he agreed, and I presented the date to him, and he said, no, I can't do it that day because I've got an interview at Harvard Medical School the next morning. So we worked around some dates, and so that hopefully it's okay time-wise with everybody. But anyway, December the 27th in this room, I believe it was from 5 to 6, but anyway, there'll be more information about that to come. So December the 27th, exceptional young man. You remember him? Okay, yeah.
He was an honorary alderman as well.
Oh, he was, yeah. That's exactly right. Very nice young man, great family. Yeah, good family.
So, Anna, you have big shoes to fill.
Miss Moody or Chief Blackwell. Do I have permission to read these police? Okay. These are letters of commendation. This first one is to Sergeant Cody Brandon. A few days ago, a plaque was delivered to the police department by Mrs. Janice Ramsey. Ms. Ramsey wanted to express her appreciation and gratitude for the assistance you provided in August 2018. Ms. Ramsey experienced a painful fall and was in need of medical assistance. Your response during the traumatic event was key in providing the services required and offering a compassionate and calming presence. Thank you for acting in such a caring and compassionate manner. Your actions reflect good credit upon yourself, the department, and the law enforcement community. Thank you for a job well done. And here's actually a copy of the plaque. With appreciation to the Thelma Police Department, above and beyond the call of duty is only a phrase. You have given it new meaning. I am forever indebted for your generous, life-saving efforts. Thank you, Janice Ramsey, August 16th, 2018. That was nice. Here's Officer Derek Derlin. I received a note from your supervisor, Sergeant Weaver, sharing an incident that recently occurred. The note indicates you responded to a call of a stolen bicycle. Upon your arrival, you learned the bicycle belonged to an elementary-aged child that had been stolen, and the bike was the child's transportation to school. The note further indicates you went to a local merchant and, using your own money, purchased a new bicycle for the child. This act of kindness was not done for fanfare or recognition. As I am told, your actions were purely selfless in nature. Your act of kindness will forever be embedded in that child's memory. You have set an example for all to emulate. I have attached the sergeant's recommendation. Thank you for caring and thank you for such a caring and compassionate manner. Your actions reflect great credit upon yourself, the department, and the law enforcement community. Thank you for a job well done. So that was two exceptional letters recognizing. All right, we're ready for the city attorney's report. Mr. Worsham, please, sir.
You all might recall that a couple of months ago I discussed with you the intention of a family who are the descendants of a former mayor of our city, Mr. T.D. Lawson, who served here as mayor in the early 20th century, to donate some land to us along Rock Creek south of Clement Drive behind Maplewood Cemetery. And we hadn't heard from them for some time, but I did hear from them last week. There had been a death in the family and some illness, but they still intend to do that. So hopefully after the first of the year, we'll be able to work on that matter for you all. Secondly, I know you all are all aware of litigation pertaining to the Dameron Convenience Center that's being built at the corner of Clement Drive and Westside Drive. There's litigation involving that. The attorneys involved in that, including me and my law firm, are working on a settlement that I think will be forthcoming shortly. We're certainly hopeful that will happen. So we have nothing else that we need to discuss with you tonight, and I wish all y'all and the people of Tullahoma a Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Mr. Worsham. Thank you. Mrs. Moody.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. I will point out in the department reports, I've shared with you a copy of the values that we've adopted as an organization, and I think the prayer tonight probably couldn't have teed me up any better to share this with you. I think, you'll find they're very representative of the staff that we have and the way that we already operate, but we wanted to make sure that we put it in writing. And we're now using these with our orientation, so all our new employees, it sets the tone for the level of service that we expect. And we'll be making posters and posting this just internally in our city facilities as well. And then I'll just reserve the rest of my comments.
Good. You gave me an example of what sort of precipitated that. Do you have permission to share that story?
Was it a story from Public Works
Yes.
employees? So early on, I just met with the leadership team and started having this discussion about writing down what our values are and kind of the rules that we play by. And we had started discussing this list, and they went back to their employees and shared the list with them to get some feedback. And then maybe about 2 weeks later, it was Thanksgiving week, and I heard from Butch that, oh, I know what it was. I was at a TAEDC board meeting, actually, and a citizen came up and said, I just have to tell you, one of your employees mentioned that you guys have these values that you've been talking about, and they saved a lady's life. And I started tracking down, well, who was it and what happened? And it was a public works employee, and it turned out it was, will you tell me their names?
Joe Johnson and Dale Hall.
Joe Johnson and Dale Hall were on their recycling truck route, and a lady was in pretty bad shape and needed help, and they called 911, got her medical attention, and we believe really probably did save her life. But the interesting thing was they said, we were nervous, but we remembered that Butch had just shared these values, and you said, do the right thing, always do the right thing. And one of our values is to follow the rules, but if there's ever a doubt in their mind between what's written down on paper and what the right thing is, they're always supposed to do the right thing. And so they said, we remember that, and so we did it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So we need to, I'll defer to you, Mrs. Moody, but I think it's appropriate that we recognize them publicly for, if you can get a little more background about that,
Okay.
we want to recognize them.
Yeah.
Use that as an example.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Good. I did forget to read this note I received from the city of Swansboro. If you remember, Swansboro was the community that Tullahoma sort of adopted after the hurricane there. The city of Swansboro would like to sincerely thank you for your support of Swansboro following Hurricane Florence. Your generosity meant so much to our staff and on our road and on their road to recovery. Best, Jessica, I can't read the last name, but anyway, I thought that was a nice note from the citizens of Swansboro. All right, we are ready. Have I left out anything yet?
No, sir.
Okay. So we have 6 items on the consent agenda. Item 18-166, minutes of November 12, 2018, regular meeting. Item 18-167, October budget summary, general fund. October 18-168, approve the purchase of a medical response vehicle for $40,016 from Russell Barnett Ford for the fire department. 18-169, approve memorandum of understanding between Tillman Police Department and Integrated Criminal Justice Portals, ICJP, for access to state database for law enforcement use. 18-170, accept the donation of a positive pressure fan valued at approximately $4,000 to the Tillman Fire Department. And 18-171, approve the purchase of 5 patrol vehicles for a total of $137,017 through state contract for the police department. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Proper motion, property second. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Whoops.
You can't see the motion.
That's-
Would you like me to pull the board up for a minute?
Let me guess. There we go. Motion.
We'll leave it up for you.
Yeah, might as well leave it there for, yeah. Let me see, is that next? Oh, I'm sorry, I did leave out the presentation, it's my fault. I asked you about, you're supposed to. So and our friends in the audience are going, what's going on? What's wrong with this guy? Okay,
That first, what was that?
that was 7-0. Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah, all right. So we're very pleased that Mr. Hill is here tonight, and he's going to give, I'm positive, an excellent presentation to the proposed new police department. Ms. Moody, any introduction that you'd like to make at this point?
Yes, so tonight you are not deliberating or voting on anything related to this, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to hear about the plans. We are very close to final plans for the new police building, and then share with you a kind of preliminary budget and timeline as we know it. Okay. And then we have Alan Hills, the architect, and he's joined by Rob Thew.
Yeah. So my goal was to get you up within 20 minutes. I did not make that, I'm sorry.
Partially my fault.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Thank
We're
you.
very excited for the opportunity to work with the City of Tullahoma, and we hope you'll be pleased with what we have to present. We had an informational meeting here in this room at 1:30 this afternoon. It was quite well attended. Quite a few people came by, asked questions, and viewed reviewed the plans. So, as you all know, the site in Tullahoma, there's existing parking area here, there's an existing alleyway, and then the existing City Hall building. So, one of the comments that has come up is looking at the traffic flow and the parking in the area between the new building site and the existing City Hall. So this is the current configuration that we're looking at, changing the direction of the alley in this area only to two-way traffic. So there would be an in that would come in and park here for the police department building, and then this is a drive for the police department parking area below. The alley in this area would maintain one way away from Grundy. So this area right here would be changed, and there was consideration about moving some existing parking up against the sidewalk and slightly rerouting this alley. This would not interfere with access into this privately owned parking lot behind. So the overall floor plan of the building, we have what we're working with is a two-story building. The city was graciously given the site, and we've tried to work to utilize every square foot possible of that to the city's best interest. So we're looking at a two-story building. We're calling it the main level and the lower level. The lower level would have a floor that's approximately at the elevation of the earth now on the site, and then the upper level would be about at the alley elevation. So looking at the lower floor plan, which would predominantly be used by police department staff, we have an evidence storage area here, office space, a squad room, briefing room in this area, stairs up here and here, and an elevator here, and then locker room space and fitness exercise space here. We are incorporating a storm shelter in part of the building, which would be here in this corner. The reason for that is that typically staff that is stationed at the police department would need to be at their posts, but would need an area that they could take cover if there was imminent danger, primarily from a tornado. So that's what that space is for. Going up to the main level, where the public might be using the building, in the front of the building, this is that parking area that we saw before that would face the existing City Hall building, ramping up to a public lobby, and the general public would be accessing this part of the building. We have some office space here, detective's office space area here, conference room, chief and assistant's office, and community room, emergency EOC area here with kitchenette area. And those are the two stairs that we had talked about, elevator here. The upper level of the building is designed for future expansion in this area. We would like to provide covered parking for some of the police cruisers in the event of an ice storm or inclement weather with snow. If they need to go get a spare cruiser, you don't have to excavate the vehicle before you can use it. So some covered parking area here that would be the area for future expansion on the second level. So we would maintain covered parking for police vehicles even if the building is expanded. Some window openings in this side of the building would become doorways when the building is expanded. This is the appearance of the building that you would see from Grundy Street. We're not trying to copy the existing building that we're in, but we're trying to pick up some of that flavor and some of that feel. We're not trying to do something retro. We're not trying to do something that matches 50s era construction, but picking up the brick below with some panel systems above to kind of mimic the feel of the stone that's on the existing building. So here would be the appearance of the building as you would see it from that public parking area or from the alley looking down. So this is that stair area. We've tried to incorporate lots of glass into the building because we don't want the building to appear as a bubble. We don't want it to have a fortress mentality. We want it to appear to be open and part of the community, not something that's walled off and separated from the community. So here in this public parking area, We have the police memorial, which would be relocated from its existing location here near the flagpole. There's a ramp up that goes up to this public entrance here. Another view there. Along Grundy would be to the right in this picture. That's just a better view of how we think the police memorial area would look. This would be what you would see from Grundy. So that's the stair on this end of the building, the stair on the other end of the building. This would be the community room area between. And brick below, the panel type product above. And we wanted to use a lot of natural light, a lot of glass area for building occupant cover, for bringing natural light in, making it a nice space to work in. But also we thought that in the evening, this time of year when it gets dark earlier at night, we're trying to use that light from inside the building to establish a good visual presence as you're driving through town. Even if you're seeing it off of the major street, or if you're turning down Grundy, you see that glow, and if you did need help, you know where to go. This is from the parking area, from the police vehicle parking area, looking back up towards the alley. This is the covered parking that you see here. This would be the corner of the building, and then that stair tower that faces Grundy. A little bit further towards on Grundy, this would be a little bit higher elevation than you would ever actually see the building, but trying to represent how that would look as you're coming up the hill. And then this floor plan shows the future expansion. So this area could be expanded as the city's needs grow in the future. So this would be the line of the original wall of the building. And then this would be the expansion area. So those windows become doorways to expand, say, for example, the detective's office area into this space, other additional offices. And does anyone have any questions? As I've covered this, I'll be glad to go into more detail of any specific point that anyone might like to discuss or have more information about.
This afternoon, you had a sample of the glass used, although I'm not sure the word glass is correct. Do you still have that?
Yes, I do. Pardon me just one moment.
It's not ready for that. Right. Quick note.
I used the wrong word, but he'll explain.
What I'm passing around, this would be a sample of a typical insulated glass unit that would go in commercial glazing. What we're talking about substituting is this material for one of these plies. So insulated glass is two plies with airspace in between. This would replace the inboard ply. And what it is it's a laminated product similar to a car windshield. The idea is that if someone tries to vandalize or throw something through, it would stop it. It would stop an object from being thrown through. But the reason that looks milky white instead of clear is that it's two plies of glass that are compressed together with a plastic material in between. In that case, it's a translucent white inner layer that will diffuse light, so reduce glare, and it will also have the effect of obscuring who's inside. So if someone is trying to cause harm, they can't see really where someone is behind glass. So where we have above head height, we could be using some clear glass to bring a view in, where I could be working at my desk and I could look up and see the sky, but someone traveling in a vehicle down Grundy Street wouldn't see me sitting there working at my desk.
What's the R factor on something like this?
It varies. That was just a sample I pulled out of our out of our sample library. The R factor is about the same, but depending on the coating, you can change the heat gain, how much heat gain relative to visible light gain. So, see that piece, and I'll show you the label. So, in some different coatings, that would be visible light transmission, and then the U. So this is about R3 for glass, which is typical.
Is it bulletproof?
It is not bulletproof. No, sir.
Consider those as some glass.
We have tried to be value conscious in the design of the facility. That was one reason that we were looking at that laminated glass. We would be happy to include a bullet-resistant product in the glazing, but there would be some significant costs involved with doing so. If you could go back to the floor plan. How much detail should I express? Okay. The approach we have taken is that the front lobby area here would be hardened and armored. So if a person who wanted to cause harm came into that front lobby area, they would be contained there. There would be bullet-resistant glass on any customer service type position. Any receptionist position would have bullet-resistant glazing between them and the public. And these walls would be armored as well, would have bullet-resistant armor. But we have not carried that through to other perimeter areas of the building.
Well, we have that now, right, Chief? In our, as far as I know. No. Good.
I can remember when there wasn't even that plexiglass there. It was
Yeah.
wide open in there. We've come a long way since then.
So what we were trying to stop is we were trying to stop somebody driving along Grundy Street and throwing a pipe bomb in or something like that. That was the type of threat that we were trying to deal with. And also taking the approach that if I can't see someone, I'm probably not going to shoot at them unless I have a target to shoot at. So we were trying to obscure the target with that laminated glass product.
The reason I was asking my art factor, my experience with lots of glass is your fluctuating in temperatures are dramatic, especially in the wintertime. So, maybe they've improved that, hopefully. But, I mean, it always looks great, but you got to keep in mind that you're going to lose some
Yes,
of
sir.
that.
Yes, sir. And we are looking at using a fairly high-performance coating on the glass with the idea that we're trying to reduce the heat gain that we would have in the summer, but offset that by the amount of natural light that we're bringing into the space.
Any other comments before we move on to you said you had a timeline as well on it.
I'd like to
Yes.
ask a question
Yes,
about
sir.
where will your heating and air conditioning units be located?
On the roof, sir.
What type of roof will it be?
The roof would be a membrane roof, probably a white EPDM membrane or a thermoplastic polyolefin TPO type membrane.
For the initial installation, there'll be a certain warranty period for that type of roof?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what is that warranty period?
We would bid a 20-year leak-proof warranty as part of the base bid with the option to go to a 25 or 30-year for a higher cost.
So I think some of that, Ray, is we're space constrained. I know you're a flat roof of ours probably.
It's hard to see in the floor plan, but if you look in certain areas like here that have an X drawn through them, like right there, what we're doing is we're putting the heating and cooling equipment on the roof of the second floor. And there are spaces where we're bringing ductwork down completely through the completely through the second floor into the ceiling of the first floor to diffuse out into the ceilings there. So we plan for everything except for the emergency generator to be on the roof. There is roof access hatch for ease of maintenance, so maintenance personnel could get up on the roof and change filters or work on a compressor or something like that without having to take a ladder up with them.
So all of the diffusers or the vents into the rooms will be ceiling vents?
That's our intention, yes, sir.
Other questions or comments at this point?
So the timeline.
Yeah, he's into the timeline.
Okay. If we could go back to the slide with the site layout and traffic circulation. We are considering improving the parking situation in this area. Doing so by constructing a retaining wall here and some distance here, and filling this area to raise the elevation here so the hill is not as steep, to make that parking more pleasant to utilize. We are needing to obtain some additional information from the surveyor in order to complete the design for that part. We anticipate hopefully getting that information in January, and then after that, the civil engineering team could finish their work. So anticipate bidding the project probably sometime in February with the construction start around April the 1st. That's the best information we have at this time.
So one thing we talked about this afternoon was taking some of that steep slope out of that portion of the parking lot.
Yes, yes. And we did have one other comment about parking layout that we will look into further. One other visitor had brought up an idea for how this location might be modified to increase the parking by a few spaces, and we will look into that further.
So I think it's important to note that Dan and Fran Markham are certainly longtime friends of the whole community, and because of their generous donation of this land, that saved a lot of money from, and this is I think a great location in town. It's a high-profile location in town, and I just can't. Those of us that have gone through the existing police department, this is going to bring, and I say this respectfully, Chief, this is going to bring the facilities into the 21st century. The building that you're using now is 60-something years old, right? Close to 70 years old. So this is a much, much needed project in the community, no question about it.
We think construction will take approximately 1 year, but, sorry, Chief, but it can't be faster, but we think it will be worth waiting for.
What is the pitch on your roof? What's going to be your pitch?
A minimum of 1/4 and 12. So some areas would be slightly steeper. I have a roll of drawings. I'd be happy to show you if you want me to unroll the drawings, but a 1/4 and 12 at least. It won't be a flat roof. We will have slope on that.
So there will be drainage?
There will be drainage, yes, sir. Won't be dead level.
Because we know what that causes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
So I'm going to give Mrs. Moody and Chief Blackwell an opportunity for any comments that you'd like to make as well.
I would just say I'm really pleased with the look of the building. One of the things that the architect did, you may have noticed, is kept with the character of the existing city hall. And so while it's very modern, it still keeps with that kind of mid-century look on the exterior. And I was really pleased to see that. And then, of course, the police, they are in about 4,500 square feet of space now. This building is 14,000 square feet. So you can imagine there's a lot of room for things that we don't have today. And I'm excited for the future growth. And they've done a great job of preparing some spaces where they're flexible spaces where we can add, say more detectives in the future, or add some additional office spaces. So I'm really pleased with how it came together.
Yeah. I'm very impressed. Yeah. Chief, let me recognize you for any comments that you'd like to make. Are you pleased with it so far?
I'm very pleased. I appreciate Upland Design Group working with us now for about 12 months. This has been a team effort. Leadership in the police department's had opportunities to look at it. The rank and file members have had a chance to look at it and ask questions, and everybody's excited about it. For many of them, it's a lot of pride. Their patrol cars, their office, but the police department's their home. So they're excited about the new growth and the new opportunities, and I believe the community's excited about it as well. So very pleased and anxious to move to the next step.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Chief. Ms. Keel?
I think the last piece, if we could, is I just wanted to have him go over just a preliminary budget so you have some understanding of what we're thinking before we head into final design and start developing the bid specs for the project. I think one of the things that we're concerned about, and you probably are too, is that it's a really hot construction market, and it really hasn't slowed down. So there's some concern that building costs have increased just in the 12 months that we've been designing this project. So we wanted to get the numbers to you early, and of course we've built these numbers to be very conservative, meaning we've, you'll notice I asked intentionally for them to set 10% of the project cost aside as contingency. We don't have to leave that number, but that was something that I thought 10% would be a safe bet for anything unexpected. It's a large building. Things like that, just to give you a worst case scenario kind of budget.
Now keep in mind, this was the premier project of the bond issue you approved last year.
Yeah.
So this was a big part of that bond issue.
Just to pick up on what Ms. Moody was saying about the contingency, agree. We have done geotechnical investigation on the site. We think we know what's there, but there are always unforeseen things that can come up, and we would like to be prepared for those eventualities. And also, this does include some additional items that were not in the original project scope, such as the parking improvements.
And I'd like to be clear, you'll have options. This is, now we're still finalizing design, so of course I want to hear your feedback as soon as possible if you have ideas of things that you want to, add or change about the project. But once we go to bid, those will be our actual numbers that we get back. And the architect's already been really good about identifying items within the project budget that we can consider add alternates, meaning that if the bids come in really high and we're not pleased with that number and we want to remove some things from the project, we can. Or, in the converse of that, if the project comes in lower than we anticipate and we want to upgrade some building materials or, add some additional feature, we can do that. So you'll have other opportunities to make comment.
Mr. Hill, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're excited about it. Good job so far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And there's one more presentation
Sure.
tonight. I had asked our Public Works Director, Butch Taylor, to speak to you about the Surface Transportation Program projects. On tonight's agenda, you'll be considering a new project and allocating funding and executing a TDOT contract for a new project. So I thought it may be a good time to just update you on our existing projects and where they're at. As you know, many transportation projects can be 4, 5+ year endeavors. So. Is Butch's voice still with him?
I'll do my
Okay.
best.
Okay.
Bear with me a little bit.
So, one of you give us just a little background on STP. I know that's where the money comes from. We have opportunities each year to be a part. Okay, so go ahead.
Yes, Mayor, thank you for letting me speak this morning. Wanted to try to give you an update of where we are. Because a lot of citizens, they hear about these projects early on, then they don't hear about them for a period of time. And what I want to let the board know, there are phases to these projects when you're using federal dollars and state dollars. And the 4 phases of these projects are environmental, you get design, then you get right of way, and then you go to construction. Each one of these phases, since you're using federal and state dollars, they can take up to a year plus for each phase. So a lot of times people hear about these projects and they don't see anything, they get concerned that what happened. So just trying to get that out of the way, I just want everybody to know there are these long phases when you're using federal and state money. The documents that you have there, you probably have 2, I think, I've placed on your desk. The first one is just to kind of give you the 3 projects that we have going on right now. Ledford Mill, which everybody travels Ledford Mill quite a bit, been out there, they can see all that's going on out there. This project is about 0.49 in length. It goes from Jackson all the way to the new industrial access road. So this is going to be improvements of widening that section of the road. Several problems. As you can see, there's little boxes at the bottom. And each one of those tells you where we are in the process. Such as Ledford Mill, you can see we're in the environmental portion of it. Each project has its own setbacks. For instance, the beavers have not helped us on Ledford Mill. So that project could get drug out even more just simply because now it becomes wetlands issues, mitigation, we got to get with the Corps of Engineers. So just try to give you an idea of how these projects can kind of grow legs of their own. We start out going one way and the state and the federal government can send us in a total different direction. We're at their mercy. A lot of times the state gets a bad rap because of these things taking so long. That's not always the case because you got to realize they got to answer to FHWA, which is Federal Highway Administration. So just to understand, it's not all on them if something is dragging behind. So long story short on that, hopefully we can get moving on. We've got an asbestos study. This was something that was just added. We thought we were getting close to environmentals. Now they want us to go back and do an asbestos study. So admixtures back in those era when those box culverts were built, there were admixtures in there that could potentially have asbestos, so we have to have those tested. But hopefully we can move on that project, get that behind us, and get into design, hopefully in maybe construction, hopefully within the next year or so. So each one of them, like I said, has their own little way of getting to where they are. Short Springs, believe it or not, this is just a simple project with a guardrail. Believe it or not, this project's 2 years old. So just to understand, it is, again, well, hopefully by spring, we can get this moving forward and get that completed. But there again, you can see we're environmental design, and we're in the middle of design. They come back and they want an asbestos study of that bridge as well. So we take 2 steps forward and kind of go back one, if you will. And the third project I've got on this list, it's not really an STP, it's more of a Safe Routes to School grant. This again is a project that has been delayed due to environmental. There was a bat study, and I won't go into a lot of detail on that, but that study has taken over a year. We've moved on, so we're getting to the point, hopefully we can get into spring bid construction, hopefully, and get that within, hopefully, this coming year. There again, at the bottom, you can see where we are in the different phases. I can go on, you just guys tell me how much you want. If there's any time on any of the information you got, if you need a question answered, feel free to give me a call. I'm trying to keep this as brief as you want it to be. Anybody got any questions on that?
Butch, could I ask about the Wilson Avenue? I know they're trying to widen that, kind of near Fraser McEwen Park. Can you speak on that, where that is right now?
That's a state project of its own.
Oh, okay, so that's
not
not-
really
okay.
ours. I could get into a little bit, but not a whole lot because
Okay.
they're in the right-of-way phase and there are things that could change on that, so I'm kind of reluctant to go too far, but I can try to answer anything
No, that's
that I
okay.
can.
That's all right.
So each of these projects on the 2 sheets of paper have previously been approved by the board.
Yes, sir.
And there are only certain ways you can spend this STD money. There's
It
an awful lot of
is.
strings attached to that, as I recall.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you get questions from folks asking us, why don't you jump ahead in phases? Unfortunately, we can't do that. If we're in environmental phase, we can't proceed to the next phase, design phase, until we get notices to proceed to the next phase. If you get caught in that, they can withdraw your money. Because I have to be very careful as I manage these things. If I get an invoice in from our consultant and he's already started another phase, that could cause us a lot of problems. So understand, that's why it takes so long. You can't jump ahead and try to be working ahead. You just got to stay in the phase you're in, and when they tell you can move forward, you can move forward at that time. So it's complicated. It takes a lot of us, Ms. Moody, Ms. Wilson. It takes a lot of people to make this work. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that happens that a lot of people don't get to see, and a lot of hours spent from staff. So it takes a bunch of us to keep this moving and get our funds and get our funds back.
Sure.
So
Some of these studies that you speak of, do they progress at a decent rate, or are some of them just extremely slow?
some are extremely slow, just like the one on the Grundy Street sidewalk project. This our environmental study on the bat has taken well over a year. It's taken so long that we had to go back and ask for an extension to the project. We were hoping that we would have the sidewalk built by now, or at least in
Anybody find any
construction.
bats there? Or?
No, they didn't find any habitat there, so we're moving on from that phase now. The plans on this particular project on Grundy Street, we're waiting on approval of the plans now, so hopefully we can get those. We checked as of last week. They're trying to push them forward to get them approved so we can move on to get it bid and go to construction.
I know we had a similar problem with building the new jail. There was, I forget the.
It's kind of a similar circumstance.
Yeah, that study had to be done, and some kind of creature that, I forget what it was now.
Yeah, I think it was similar to a bat and something else.
It was some kind of bat, yeah, the Indiana bat, I believe.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
I'm a little bit aware of that one too. I hear about some of those things along with dealing with my colleagues at other places, so.
Yeah, I think, Mayor, you were asking the source of the funding. We mentioned federal and state dollars. So surface transportation program dollars come from your gas tax. So both the federal and state gas tax, and they're an allocation that we get. So these are federal, requirements that come down from the EPA. And when you hear it in the business community, it affects the public sector as well.
It does, as Ms. Moody said, when we get these funds, we have certain time frames we have to spend them in. In this project that's coming up, and I can wait on that one until that time comes up. But yeah, there's different phases, and we have to have certain deadlines that if we don't have that money obligated to these projects, we lose that money.
So if our project's held up by something that's out of our control, is it possible to lose that money, or how often do they grant extensions? Is it?
They will grant them. Most of the time, if it's on their end, they will generally grant us an extension of time. Because they understand we can't move forward until they let us move forward. So most of the time they're willing, they work with us on those type of things and let us move forward.
Mr. Cannon, thank you very much. Good job. Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Moody.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to move on to old business now. We have two ordinances, both second readings. Ordinance number 1514, consider an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by amending Article 4, Specific District Regulations, Section 4, Commercial Districts, by adding C3, Neighborhood Commercial District, for passage on the second of two readings. Let me get a motion in a second and open the floor for any discussion.
Motion.
Proper motion by Ms. Dunn, seconded by Alderman Duncan. Any discussion? All those listening vote for ordinance 1514, vote green. Opposed, vote blue. Motion passes 7-0. Second ordinance, ordinance number 1515, consider an ordinance to amend the zoning map as set forth in the Tullahoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392, to rezone an 8.2 acre portion of an approximately 15.7 acre parcel located at 700 William Northern Boulevard from C2 General Commercial District to R3 High Density Residential District for passage on the second of two readings. Is there a motion to approve by Alderman Duncan? Second by Ms. Dunn. Any discussion? All.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Sure. We got a sidewalk issue that we're going to look at later, and the sidewalk in this area will come down, and we'll have to cross the street to tie into the proposed new sidewalk project, correct? Okay. Okay, that's all I had to ask.
Okay. All those in favor? 15 on second reading, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we have 4 items of new business. The first one, item number 18172, approve and authorize the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Tullahoma and the Tennessee Department of Transportation for the Cedar Lane Sidewalk Project, portion of State Route 16 North Jackson Street, William Northern Boulevard, and Cedar Lane, and approve an allocation of 20% local matching funds to the Surface Transportation Program, SDP projects, funding the amount of $185,400 for a total estimated project cost of $927,000. Let me get a motion in a second. Open the floor for any discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Proper motion by Mr. Duncan, seconded by Dr. Blacks. Any discussion?
I'd like to talk about it a little bit. I'm definitely for sidewalks. I think I've had a lot of people talk to me about it. The original plan that Ms. Moody sent out this week, I was particularly excited about because it would kind of line up some of the apartment housing. You've got a walking path to get to shopping like Kroger and Tractor Supply, those places. And now this new one would kind of bring it closer to the mall. But this is kind of where you see current people walking currently now. So if we were to say, try to get it to look more like this, because it seems like just talking to Butch, how long would that take to re-plan this out?
Well, both of us will try to answer. I would
Okay.
say first on the original, on the correct illustration that shows the sidewalk along Jackson to William Northern, and then along William Northern turning onto Cedar Lane and continuing onto the Greenway. The part of the reason that we chose that route was because it's a way for us to complete some gaps in the sidewalk network along Jackson Street. So that portion between Jackson Circle and William Northern Boulevard, there are some gaps. You probably noticed that. Some newer developments have come in and they've been required to build sidewalk, and then some existing businesses do not have sidewalk in front of them. I think my understanding from Butch is if we, the illustration that I incorrectly drew that had all of the portion of Cedar Lane filled in, if we had applied for that route, we probably wouldn't have had the ability to fix those gaps in our sidewalk network. So that was part of our priority, was Jackson Street.
There is existing sidewalk from Alderman Blanks' office there that goes around. We tried to figure out the best side of the road to go on and that we could utilize the most sidewalk that's already existing. And I think with the plan that we have to come from the Greenway on Cedar Lane going north, then turning on William Northern and going back east and then back down Jackson was the best plan. Keep in mind, we also have to sell this project to the state, and we've got to get some links in there using the existing greenway that Kurt has out there at the church on Cedar Lane. It was a big loop that we can complete one big circle for folks that want to walk and maneuver around and go. And as we all know, that section of Cedar Lane, as long as I've been here, we've had complaints, people, it's just dangerous. And trying to get that one big phase out of the way.
Comment. This is what I saw in our package that came out. I liked it. I came in tonight and I saw something different. Don't like it. Tell you why I don't like it. The proposed route along William Northern Boulevard there is totally untraveled by foot traffic, in my opinion. The airport area up there, I've been around the airport for 4 years. That's just not, there's no foot traffic there. It's almost building it and hoping they'll come. Well, I don't think that's a way to build sidewalks. I think it's an expensive way to build something that might happen. I like the idea that I saw to start with. It's a very coherent approach to sidewalk. Gives us all the sidewalks we need down Jackson. Connects with Cedar Lane, which is definitely a big need for sidewalks. So I certainly support the earlier version.
So, not to be argumentative, but it could be that there's no foot traffic there because it's dangerous there, and people choose not to go that way, but I understand what you're saying, yeah. So, walk us through again that if there are any disadvantages of going back to the original drawing.
The original drawing was truly just an error on my part when I made the illustration. So that's why if you look at the language of the memo, I had said William Northern all over it. I don't know why when I went to draw the picture, I kept it on Cedar Lane, but part of it maybe because we keep referring to it as the Cedar Lane sidewalks.
No, I'm not asking you
Okay, but I mean, the first illustration, it wasn't like we submitted that and that was an original part of the project. It never was.
So what would happen if we wanted to do both? What if we wanted to continue around Cedar Lane and then come down Jackson Street? I mean, what keeps us from doing that?
I do think we should do both, and development is already building, as Butch said. We have had there are portions of sidewalk along Cedar Lane, and we have some projects.
You have sidewalks from my office all the way down here to William Northern Boulevard, and then you'll switch. You don't have any sidewalk from my office going across the bridge on Cedar Lane. You probably have sidewalk there from Tractor Supply to Jackson Street, maybe.
What comes to mind for me is that we have future allocations of funding, and maybe, Butch, we can contact them about adding this additional portion with future funding, and just do the environmental at one time.
To add it is across from my office, probably to Jackson, and then back down, the gaps.
Yes, the gaps.
So, but again, my question is, what precludes us from doing both of them right now?
Probably just the amount of funding. I think Butch was trying to...
From the state or local?
The Surface Transportation Program, it's annual allocations. And so I think Butch was matching the money that we have allocated to a project and just trying to perfectly pair those up. But we can borrow forward as well.
There's some strategic planning there, because if in the future we widen Cedar Lane from, say, William Northern going south toward Wilson, there's problems with both sides of the road. As everybody knows, one side of the road you got houses right just almost on the street, and then the other side of the road you've got the duplexes on one side, and the right-of-way we have in there, you've got the store that plays a factor on the corner of Wilson and Cedar Lane. So there's a lot of factors. We tried to play the best move we could to try to plan for a future widening of whatever. If we get to that point, it's possible we could have sidewalks from both sides. But just trying to put this and make the money match with what we thought we can match a project to is kind of, there's a lot of factors involved in trying to get this project.
All right, so let's do this. Let's see at some appropriate future meeting. And it could be that we fund this internally, locally, this extra loop up here. We put $1 million in the bond issue for sidewalks. I don't know about the rest of you, but I get more requests for sidewalks than anything else. Anything else.
Have you had a single request for a sidewalk along William Northern Boulevard?
No, sir, I haven't. No. But I understand his reasoning that. So I'm just saying, is this a timely request? Is this STP thing? I've got to sign it today or something?
I am concerned about that, yes. We do need to obligate our funding.
I'm concerned. It just seems like it's everybody, not just in public business, but private as well. We say, well, let's just add this project. Let's just do this for the next project. And that next project never comes along sometimes. So it just seems like we need to, if we're going to do it, let's do it right, And we, all of us have seen, all of us have seen ladies pushing strollers
Yes.
down Cedar Lane. It's embarrassing. So we need to continue this loop, whether we do it internally or whether we get some advance from STP money, that we need to do it all at one time and get it done, in my opinion.
Mayor, with all due respect, spending money for a sidewalk where no one walks, when we have so many children walking to school on streets that are inherently dangerous, and there are no sidewalks, and you have had requests for sidewalks, why would we not honor those requests where they are so sorely needed to fund something that there's no request for?
I think the next step is that let's get prices for the loop, and then we'll make that decision. Whether we can opt out of William Northern Field sidewalk if that's going to be an issue.
I think one thing, Ray, that the traffic on that is increasing. Since we have a new development there, we have Publix. That's car traffic wise, that has increased.
Just add, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just add to that, Ray, we at Public Works have had people ask about sidewalks on William Northern. Granted, it has not been a lot, but we have had people request that. You've got the doctor's clinic there, Dr. Patsemas' office, you got a credit union, you've got several other ways, and now with Publix, I think a lot of folks that transverse down that section of Cedar Lane are going to want to go to that, because we will have, at the new intersection of Publix at William Northern, we're going to have crosswalks there, pad mounts for pedestrians, so it's tying everything together. Granted, I understand what you're saying. As Jimmy said, you can get to William Northern, there would be a crosswalk to get to the opposite side of the road, would get you on a ramp, but I understand what you're saying about having that sidewalk to continue on that side all the way around to Jackson. I get what you're saying.
I'm simply seeing children walking on very dangerous streets when there are no sidewalks, and that's my primary concern.
It's mine as well, and you're going to see that sometime the first of the year, I want to put new sidewalks all over Tullahoma around the schools. And Ms. Moody is working on that very thing, so it's going to happen. So I agree.
We should probably, and we'll bring you back a sidewalk improvement presentation that lists all the different projects that we have. In addition, we've been working on the ADA transition plan, and that's going to mean better maintenance and projects on our existing sidewalks to make sure that those ramps are ADA compliant and those sidewalks, are ADA smooth and ADA compliant. I think for this agenda item tonight, if you will consider, my recommendation would be to consider approving this contract with TDOT the way that we've proposed it and that has already been approved by TDOT to allocate the funding. And then Butch and I will go back and see if we can get an amendment to add this additional route along Cedar Lane. And if it requires the allocation of the next year's funding, then we'll see if
or
they'll
local
amend the
funding.
contract.
Or local funding. I'm receptive to that.
Okay, or increase our local match to cover it, is what you're saying?
Sure.
Okay, well, we'll bring back options then.
But I agree with Ms. Moody. I really think for this phase, we need to move on, because I don't know the potential if we go back and start delaying this, it could get into a problem, we could lose the money.
And we don't want that to happen, for sure. Yeah.
There's about $750,000 up there on the table that we could fix some rules.
All right, I think we've got a plan. We'll make it work. Any other discussion? We're ready to vote. The motion is to approve as presented. All those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 6-1. All right, next item, 18-173, approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Reagan Smith Associates, Inc. for the North Jackson Streetscape Initiative in the amount of $25,000. So let me get a motion and a second on the floor.
Motion approved.
Second.
Proper motion by Dr. Blanks, seconded by Ms. Keene. Let me just read a portion of, you see what's on page 111A. It is always important to stress your strengths. From an economic development standpoint, Telemar's strengths include retail, technical, aviation, and medical, certainly amongst other things as well. We are already a retail destination, but it's important we strengthen this position as the retail leader of Southern Middle Tennessee. Retail is important to Tullahoma for many reasons. Thanks to a team of hardworking people, we are aggressive about recruiting retail and sharing the benefits of investing in Tullahoma. We market extensively to a large group of restaurant, retail, and hospitality companies, both regional and national. We communicate with these prospects regularly and attend regional and national trade shows talking up Tullahoma. And this strategy, I would hope you agree, has paid off big time. One particular company we were trying to recruit to Tullahoma visited our community, and after their visit communicated to me they were going to pass on Tullahoma because we needed to improve our streetscape. And I was pretty gentle in my explanation there. There was a little bit more descriptive. After living in Tullahoma for over 60 years, I have a tendency to overlook both large and small aesthetic details that perhaps need some attention. As the retail leader, it's important we keep our community looking fresh and vibrant. It is always good to have another set of eyes to take a new look at our community. And I believe this streetscape strategy will be a set of fresh eyes. So we have a motion and a second. Floor is open for any discussion.
On page 114, it says that they want to have meetings with selected stakeholders, and I really think that's on B, Part B, will attend, present, and facilitate a meeting with selected stakeholders for input and the conceptual streetscape plan. I just think it's really important that we're all stakeholders, and this is very, very public, and so that there's surveys sent out, not necessarily from Reagan Smith, but maybe from the city, where everybody's involved, because this is something this is probably the most traveled stretch in town, and I think, and it's, in front of the high school, I think that students should be involved in that, and that it's, it's for everybody, so.
Ms. Moody, do you concur?
I do. I think that stakeholder input meeting is sort of like having focus groups. So as opposed to just doing a general public, anyone come and share your ideas, what we'll do is we'll develop a list of stakeholders, or we'll help develop whatever the approach is and define the focus groups. And one could certainly be the high school students. We can make that list of stakeholders as short or as comprehensive as we would like. So. And then I'm very open to using some creative approaches, like either through social media or a survey like you mentioned, and we'll look at how we can get the most involvement that we can.
Other discussion? All those wishing to vote for 18-173, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. 18-174, approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Griggs & Maloney, Inc. for the downtown repaving and crosswalk repair project in the amount of $33,000. Again, we get a motion and a second on the floor.
Motion approved.
Dr. Blank's motion, second by Alderman Dillon. Any discussion?
Quick discussion. This was done originally a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And our warranty on that was how long?
It's still active.
So they're gonna help pay for this, or?
No, my recommendation is that we have a fresh set of eyes on it. So that's why, first and foremost, I asked an outside engineering firm that we really haven't had much of a previous relationship with to take a look at the crosswalks and give me a recommendation or proposal for what the fix could be.
Okay.
First and foremost, they were shocked at how much it has deteriorated in such a short amount of time. It's a premature failure without doing some subsurface testing and coring. They can't really identify why it's failed other than really poor performance on the contractor's part. And what you're seeing out there today is a result of their repair. So they've already been tasked with repairing it once. We could continue with, and I think we should, maybe with a legal remedy on behalf of the city. But I think to see a timely repair and quality work performed, I think we need to use an outside engineering firm and use our existing annual paving contract to have the work done.
I've talked to Public Works about this same issue earlier, and I've had people in the public come in there and say, what,
Yeah.
it's boom, 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 boom. I mean, it needs work on, and I think in the future, when we bid some of these contracts, we need to look at who we've had bid these, how good a job they've done. Sometimes our hands are tied because we have to take the low bid, but I think we have remediation to, if we have an entity that is doing substandard work, I think the law allows us to punt them out of the equation, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're exactly right. Where we faced a difficulty in this project downtown was that the project was run through TDOT. And despite the city letting them know the project on the issues with the project while it was ongoing, and that's where I really actually don't want to criticize the engineering inspection that was done on the existing work, because flaws and problems were reported to TDOT, and they failed to take action and allow us to remove the contractor. We requested that. And now I'm understanding on subsequent projects, they're realizing continued problems, and something is going to be done to address that. But you're right, on any project that is solely our funding, our project, we won't just be going with the low bid. We'll be looking for the best value. So if we know there are known issues with the contractor, we're not going to recommend them. We'll either disqualify them from being eligible to bid, or we'll let you know that on the front end.
Are our hands tied, when we're doing matching funds, are our hands tied on the bidding process?
Yeah, with the TDOT project it was, because they weren't willing to work with us and change the contractor on the project.
Surely, we have an elected official in this town that's in the Senate that we should be able to let her knock some heads at TDOT and make them see it more our way.
Yeah.
Mr. Moran is sitting in the audience. He works at a contracting business, and, if you have a TDOT problem, how do you get to them?
We'll mill one up tomorrow and repave it. It's like contract, it's in the punch list, and we're fixing it. That's the kind of contractor you want, somebody's gonna do it right.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry to get down that rabbit hole, but,
Ms. Moody, is there no legal remedy to recover any cost remuneration for fixing it? We don't want to contract with this same company to fix it again and again.
Correct.
And again, but I think they should have some liability for the cost that we incur for redoing their work.
they're bonded, I'm sure.
I agree. I think we'll explore that. I just didn't think it would be a timely fix to the problem. So I was taking a two-avenue approach. One, we continue to seek a legal remedy and see if we can get a payment, but at the same time, go ahead and get the road fixed.
Well, I certainly support repairing. That's the remedy. I've heard so many comments about our downtown speed bumps. It's embarrassing. And I, for one, quit traveling that route. But I would like to see, as a board, us to encourage us to pursue legal remedies for cost reimbursement for some of their work.
Ready to vote? All those wishing to vote for 18174, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Last item, 18175, approve the bids and award a contract for annual street repairs and resurfacing to Rogers Group for fiscal year 2019.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Dr. Blank, seconded by Mr. Noyes. Any discussion? All those wishing to vote for the motion, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. Moran.
Mayor, I'd like to go on the record and say I didn't set Steve up.
No, the youth mayor suggested Ms. Moran tonight. She wouldn't have known otherwise. Any other new business, Ms. Moody?
No other
You're good.
business?
All right, we'll adjourn and go into the beer board. We have one item 18 BB34 minutes of November 12th, 2018 Beer Board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Proper motion by Ms. Keen, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Noes. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. I forgot to mention, on January the 17th is our annual legislative meeting, so if you would make a note of that if you don't already know. January the 17th. I've already confirmed we've got 2 new state representatives. All of you know Representative Rush Bricken, who will be a representative now. He's not now, but will be. And then Ms. Rudder, who represents the portion of Tullahoma that's in Franklin County. And then, of course, Ms. Bowen is confirmed as well. No other business. We are adjourned. Everybody have a nice evening. Merry Christmas.
Christmas.